Let's plug you in and turn you down.
Turn you all the way down.
All the way down.
Just spend the whole
in the morning
miming and going, oh yeah.
Oh gosh,
God,
yeah.
oh, that's awful. Yes, awful.
Well, apparently, speaking of turning us down,
well, they want us to turn up.
They do want us to turn up. So we've got some, first and foremost, some shout outs to do real quick. Shout outs. And we have had some new subscribers. So massive shout out to new subscribers, Alex and Helen.
Alex and Helen? Thank you. Are they two separate ones? Or are they like together?
No, two separate.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, what's going on between you, Alex, Helen? What's happening?
Little perplexed love story.
Oh, thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you. And shout out to Flamingo Cottages because they have donated to our buy us a coffee after listening to your toy box story, Killer Blam.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Blam. Gosh, that was a hard Blam.
It was.
And we've had some reviews come in, and they made I'm going to read them out. Okay, I'm going to read them word for word as they have been so lovingly written.
Yeah.
And the first one is from Arletta. So thank you, Arletta. We've heard from Arletta before. And it says, fantastic podcast hosted by two lovely girls, Katie and Sarah. They research and discuss a wide range of topics that can be perplexing. Each episode is unique, blending humour with sadness, and leaves you contemplating the subject long after you finish listening. Thank you, girls. And she's named it Best Podcast, and it's got 5 stars. And that's just great.
Thank you. Not thank us. Thank you.
Thank you. And this next review made me absolutely die. And it's from Amy, and it's a 5-star review, and it's lovely, but it's titled quite bluntly, I despise the AI.
I know. When you first sent that through to me, I was like, oh no, because I hate negative that people don't like us. Yeah, and I was like, oh no, and then actually when I read it, I was like, actually that's cool.
It's so funny, and it's so bluntly truthful that I absolutely love it. And we asked for your feedback. We said, if we're trying something new, if you don't like us, let us know. And thank you, Amy, because you did. And it says, I despise the AI. I adore your voices and commentary, and I do understand that you need breaks, but I 100% will be skipping the AI readings.
I know.
Thank you for that, because
we actually really loved it.
So yeah, we thought we'd try something, because I thought, we didn't know. And our episodes where we're just telling the stories, there will always be us telling the stories. But these were stories from other people. They were their own stories, and we thought perhaps it would be better coming from a voice that sounded like that character. It made it a bit more authentic. But obviously not, and that's fine.
Yeah. You like our Essex drawls. Yeah. So
we love that.
Yeah.
So, Amy, there will be no more AI recording, so you do not need to skip any future episodes. Do not worry yourself.
We won't do it again. To be honest, the only reason that I did the Toy Box Killer Blam AI was because I just couldn't bear to say the words myself. So if there's anything like that in the future where I think, do you know what, I don't want those words to come out my mouth, then it might be a bit of AI, but I mean it's going to be few and far between, if any at all.
Absolutely.
So, we got you, Amy. We got you.
We hear you. We feel you. We see you.
Yeah, we're here for it.
Yeah.
We're here for you.
I do not have a Blam.
Random Blams, go.
Did you not just hear me when I said I do not have Blam?
Yeah, it eggs me on. I have taken the advice of Amy and my poddy, Sarah, and I decided that I was going to fully embrace my Essexness. So I have got some Essex slang that we use that you don't actually think about it not being used in like the rest of the world and even like the rest of this country. I'm sure there's people. So if you want to do a Blam collaboration with me, Poddy, then yeah.
Oh, duo Blam. It gets me out of doing a Blam.
Duo Blam, exactly.
I'm on board.
All right. So I am going to tell you some Essex phrases and terms that we tend to use on a daily basis.
Right.
Sometimes
we don't even know that we're using.
sometimes every other word. But yeah, so I will kick it off with Bas Vegas.
Bas Vegas. I went to Bas Vegas many a year.
Yeah. So for those of you that aren't familiar with Bas Vegas, it is a town called Basildon in Essex. So it's a town in Essex and it's called Basildon. And for some reason, we all call it Bas Vegas.
Well, there's only a certain part of Basildon that you call Bas Vegas, and that's the retail park, and that's because that's where all the clubs were.
Oh, yeah, I guess.
So the whole of Basildon isn't referred to as Bas Vegas. It's only the bit where they had like jumping jacks and Chicago's and
they've got Nando's and
bowling, cinema.
Bowling, yeah.
That was Bas Vegas.
Bas Vegas, yeah, because it's where we go for entertainment. Another one, Chelmo.
Chelmo. I don't think I've ever said the words Chelmo in my life, but that's because Chelmsford's not particularly near me.
Yeah, I do say Chelmo a lot. Yeah, another town called Chelmsford, and it's too much of a struggle for us to say Chelmsford, so we say Chelmo.
We do it to everything. Why do we struggle so much that we just shorten things? Like instead of the Platinum Jubilee, we just went Platy-Jubes. That's just the Platy-Jubes.
Platy-Jubes, isn't it? Yeah.
It's not the Platinum Jubilee, it's just the Platy-Jubes.
I know.
Instead of a mental breakdown, it's a menti-B.
There is
math and a menti-B. I can't even form the words.
So ridiculous, isn't it? No. So ridiculous.
Can't even bother to say the whole thing, just having a menti-B.
This next one is more of a menti-B. This next one is a term that we do use. It's not a place, but, and I know you'll know what it is. Out.
Out. Are you going out or out?
Yeah, exactly.
People are like, what are the words coming out?
I'm going out Friday. Are you going out or are you going out? And in a simple translation, it is out. So
and if you're going out,
you're not just going out. You're going out.
Yeah. But if you're going out, you're going to Las Vegas.
Yeah.
That's what out is.
You might go Chelmo. Yeah. You might go Bas Vegas. More likely you're going to be going Bas Vegas if you're going out.
Yeah. If you're going out, you just pop into the shops. If you're going out.
Yeah, you're going out.
You're going out.
Yeah, something fancy.
You're going out. You're going out. Stupid.
What about this one? This is another place. Southend. Southend.
Yeah.
And it's spelled Saafend.
Yeah, Southend.
Southend. And that translation is South End, which is a seaside town in Essex. And we call it fancy a trip to Southend. Going down Southend, going out down Southend. Makes sense.
I love Southend. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say, "Do you want to pop to Southend?"
Yeah, I know that wouldn't sit well with us.
Do you want to catch the train to Southend?
Should we go? No. Should we spend the day at Southend?
I'd be like, where?
I'd be like, what? Who are you?
Southend.
What are we talking about? Going out down Southend,
on your bike.
Get out of it. All right, I've got another one. You may not know this because this is quite far for you. Daggers.
Daggers. I know daggers.
You know daggers?
Dagenham.
Dagenham. Or I remember when I was a teenager, there was a stage where everyone used to call it Dagenham.
Yeah, Dagenham.
Dagenham.
Yeah.
Because we were trying to be a little bit
posh it up.
Posh. But yeah, it's daggers. Going down
Dagenham.
daggers. I don't think many people choose to go down daggers these days.
Dagenham Heath.
Get stabbed up, mate. A very popular one, sharp. And there's no stopping in the middle of that, because what we're actually saying when we go sharp is shut up, and it's like no,
yeah,
never.
So should we go through the ways in which you can use the word sharp?
Yeah, give us some examples.
So I'll be like, oh, went out last night.
Shut up. There you go. And you'd be like, no,
I went Las Vegas.
Yeah, sharp.
Do you know that someone got stabbed in daggers the other day?
Yeah.
You're supposed to say shut up.
That's not something I'd be like, shut up. I'd be like, yeah, it's about right. Stabbing up in daggers. Standard Friday night, that. Standard Tuesday morning. Sorry about that if anyone lives in daggers. I'm sure it's not all like that. I've got another one. Clackers.
Clacton.
Nice.
Clacton on
you can see the trend where we go.
Daggers.
Daggers. Clackers. Las Vegas. What about this one? All right, geese.
Geese.
All right, geese. It's two words. It's AITE. All right. Geese. GEEZ.
E.
All right, geese.
Geezer. Geezer bird. That was one that I always used to hear all the time. Geezer bird.
Geezer bird. Yeah.
Geezer bird.
All right, geese is like how we greet each other.
Hello to our fellow man.
Hello, fellow man. All right, geese. Yeah. So geezer, obviously, is a fella. He's a man.
Yep. Geezer bird is a woman that is potentially a small bit masculine. Geezer bird.
Yes. Geezer bird. Yep. One of the more modern ones, sick.
Oh, Isaac's into that at the minute. Everything's sick.
Yeah, Lewis says that a lot.
Oh, so sick that is.
Oh, mate, that's sick.
That's sick.
I'm like,
and he goes,
it is indeed sick, Lewis.
His newest one is, oh, yo, bro.
Yeah.
Oh, yo, bro.
Oh, yo, bro. Sick.
Oh, yo, bro.
Mate.
That's sick, that is.
All right. One of the most popular Essexisms is in it. And this in it is a way of saying, isn't it? Isn't it just?
Isn't it? In it.
It's a form of agreement. It's also a form of pretty much anything else. In it.
You can use it side by side to shut up, can't you?
Yeah.
In it. Use it in disbelief. In it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all in the tone of your voice. What about get out?
Get out.
Get out. It's another form of disbelief, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because we are actually saying get out, and not in a you need to leave. We're saying it as in get out of here.
Get out.
Get out. We got well gel.
Yeah, well gel.
Which translates as that someone is well jealous.
Yeah, well gel.
They're well gel. Oh, going out tomorrow. Oh yeah, I'm well gel. Yeah, I know. It's ridiculous.
Why do we do this? Why do we
know.
every single word?
I know. What about butters?
Butters.
Oh, mate. They are butters, mate.
But ugly. Butters.
Mate, they're butters.
I mean, some of these things I haven't said since I was a child.
Some of these things I've never said.
A chewing gum, we used to call him a chud. Why?
Chud, yeah,
Why?
I know.
Why
Giss
did you used to call him a
a
chud?
chud.
Giss a chud.
Yeah. And we don't say, please may I have. We say giss.
Giss a chud.
Giss a chud, mate.
Our ancestors would be mortified.
I know. And
Giss a chud.
Also, you're well outers. It means that someone is out of order. They're being unfair. And we go, that's well outers, mate.
Well outers, what you just
well
well
outers. You're not
well
giss a chud. Giss a chud. Oh, you're well outers. Fucking butters, mate.
You butters anyway, mate.
Butters don't want a chud from you. Being well muggy, which leads on to my next one. Muggy. That is muggy, mate.
That is muggy.
Yeah, getting mugged off by someone who's a right butters. They can get out.
Shut up.
Oh yeah, proper muggy butters.
Muggy.
And I'll tell you something else they are. They're dutty, mate.
Dutty. That's nothing. I've never said that. That's very East London, that is.
Oh, I say dutty.
You say scusties a lot, and actually, I use
say
that in my everyday life now.
There you go. And do you know what? Scusties is something that I have only heard myself say. I've never heard anyone else say, "Oh, mate, that's scusties."
Scusties.
Yeah, and that's got a couple of different connotations, because you'd like, if you're not going out and you're staying in, and you might want to engage in some scusties, but then there's other things that you look and you think, oh mate, that's scusties.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, dutty is like
dirty.
Dirty, scummy, muggy, butters, dutty, prick.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah, Caesar, when I was out walking with Caesar, he went to roll in something, and I went, "No, Caesar, scusties, Caesar, scusties,
scusty boy."
And there's like people walking past us, and I was like, "No, it's scusties."
I'm like, mate, she's dirty. So there's a couple of different words, or there's several different words that is meant as a term of endearment, but you very rarely are someone that uses all of these terms. You'll normally use like one or two, and you tend to favour like one or two. So it's babs, babes, hun, which I do not use.
No.
Love and darling. I'm definitely love and darling. All right, love.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Us. I'm a darling. Darling is in replace of Josie's name. I don't really ever call her Josie. I'm like, darlings.
We use bubs as well.
Yeah, you use bubs a lot.
Yeah.
I only say babes if I'm joking about. If she comes in from work, I go, "You okay, babes?" She goes, "I'm okay, babes. You okay, babes?"
Yeah.
It's the only time we say babes.
I don't use babe, really. I definitely don't use babs. I never use hun.
No.
It's a bit of a like dislike for me. Like it makes me feel uncomfortable, that word.
I tell you what I do. I only use it if Josie's like, "Oh, my knee hurts," and I go, "Oh, honey."
Yeah.
That's the only time I say that.
Yeah. Use it in a piss-taking way.
Oh, honey.
I tend to use love not so much in an endearing way, but in a bit of a like, all right, love. Calm your tits.
Calm your tits on your bike.
Get out of it.
Mugging me off.
Yeah. Dirty prick. Yeah, so I think we're more like love and darling, and bubs we use.
Yeah.
Emotion. Totes emotion.
Totes emotion, yeah.
I'll tell you what, incidentally, just a sidestep in my blam. I watched the Celine Dion documentary.
Oh, don't even get me started.
Speak about emotion. Oh my goodness.
About half an hour after I watched that, I'd been fine. And then about half an hour later, Josie was talking and she was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like,
"No.
I'm just so upset about Celine Dion." I just pulled onto her lap and blubbed.
I love Celine Dion. I love her. I love her. She could never do any wrong by me. But yeah. So that made me emotion.
Oh, it's emotion. Yeah. Right, this blam's been about half an hour long.
Yeah, I know. I think I'm at the end. I just had some ones that I'd written down, but the others don't really apply to us.
We can do a part 2.
We are beyond that. Yeah, so there you go. There's some embracing our Essexness. You said that you don't want AI. You said you like hearing our voices. So there you go. You've just had full force
Essex.
Scusties, Essex,
Gosh,
whichever way you look at it.
We butcher the language something horrifically.
Yeah, we do, but we're not sorry.
No.
Nah.
Random Blams, done!
Done!
That was really soulful.
Was it?
Talking about like accents and butchering and stuff, and he's like, done!
Done! I'm embracing my inner Celine.
Oh, don't even get me started. Every time someone mentions it, I get so upset.
Oh my God, I just love her. And how cruel. How cruel that she would get something that would affect her voice.
Yeah. So what upset me the most was how passionate she was about singing. She wasn't like full of herself or anything. The one thing that she loves to do is singing and performing, and she never took it for granted. And she's so passionate about doing it. Like, she just singing, like, she would have a conversation and just sing halfway through because she just loves to sing. And to then not be able to, it was just so devastating.
Oh, it's so cruel. It's so cruel. And I love her as a person, as a singer.
Right, batshit. That's another one. Batshit crazy.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Celine. I was like,
she is.
What?
She's batshit crazy.
Yeah, we do love that about her.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, she could never do any wrong by me. Bless you, Celine. If you're listening, which I'm sure she is, we love you.
Get in touch.
We love you. Love you.
Let's do a collab.
Pop us a message. You can sing our theme tune. Love that.
Yeah.
Like it would be an honour for her. You can sing our theme tune. We'll let you. Yeah. Love you. All right. I enjoyed that, Blam. That was good.
Yeah, I love that.
All right. Well, let's crack on with it then.
All right.
Roll the music. Morning.
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 I did that to the who did I see this morning? I saw someone this morning when I was out walking the dog, and I just went morning.
Morning.
He's got no idea why.
Can you imagine if we said that one day and someone was like, "Oh my God, you're Sarah from Perplexed."
I recognise that voice.
Like, what? Love that. So today, the other day, I thought that I would do some murderers that either murdered and lived in London. But I thought there's actually a lot, and there's actually a lot that when I started looking into it, I hadn't heard of. Today's episode is not one of those. Today's episode is one that I have definitely heard of and I am familiar with. So I thought I would cover it, and it's the story of John Christie.
Oh.
Are you familiar with that?
Nope.
Are you familiar with it if I told you that he lived at an address called 10 Rillington Place?
No.
Oh. Okay.
Nope, still no.
Wow. You are in for a treat. So John Reginald Halliday Christie was born on an ordinary day in April 1899.
Oh, that's probably why I'm not familiar. Before my time.
You don't remember 1899? The peaceful village of Nottingham. I apologise if I got that wrong, but I don't know it. I'm not familiar with it. It's not in Essex. So he was born in the peaceful village of Nottingham. And this village had no idea that this newborn's cries would mark the beginning of a very dark and twisted existence. John was the 6th child out of 7. He was raised in a household where discipline and routine reigned supreme. Despite his intelligence and cleverness, he struggled to form any sort of connections with any other people. And instead, he embraced his solitude and just descended further into this lonely existence it was for him in his childhood. In his adolescent years, he would meet young girls, he would go out on dates, but as the snogs and physical intimacy progressed, he found that he was unable to perform and fulfill the expected tasks, if you get my meaning. Scusties, yeah. So he couldn't fulfill his Scusties' wants and desires. So very early on in his teenage years, he found that he was impotent. This discovery was obviously very upsetting for John, and it was made considerably worse for him when word got out and he was teased relentlessly for his inadequacies. Rumours spread fast round his village and he was constantly bullied and ridiculed for it. He was a very quiet natured and unassuming guy, like pretty much all the way through his life. At least he was on the outside. And this outward appearance definitely helped him massively to lure women to him, because a lot of women and girls felt very safe and calm and like reassured with him. He just came across as this very reliable, nice guy, which obviously we hear time and time again. As the world was engulfed in the chaos of World War One, and I had to look that up a few times. I was like, World War One, but then he was born 1899. So Christie bravely served in the British Army, facing bullets and bombs in defence of his country. He was just 17 years old at this time. However, amidst the horrors of war, he suffered a terrible fate. Shortly after arriving at his post in France, he suffered a mustard gas attack, and this left him with permanent respiratory issues. For the next 3 years, he lost his voice pretty much completely. So he was pretty much mute for those whole 3 years. He suffered severe chest pains and throat pains. And from then on, he relied on a variety of medications to ease his pain and to help him breathe properly. His physical and mental battles planted the seeds for the decisions that he would make in the future, unfortunately. The scars of war were not just visible on his body, but also deeply ingrained in his mind and soul. In the early years of his adulthood, Christie's life was tainted by a string of petty criminal activities. He had frequent run-ins with the law, resulting in multiple convictions for theft and assault. And it was quite violent assault. He was sentenced because of this, and he served time in prison. Despite these brushes with the law, Christie somehow managed to secure jobs as a postman and a warehouse clerk, projecting an outward appearance of normalcy. He was just a normal guy, nice guy. But behind closed doors, Christie's personal life was far from harmonious. In 1920, he married Ethel Simpson, and their marriage was plagued with infidelities, long periods of separation. I think at one point they separated for like 10 years and then ended up coming back together. In 1937, going into 1938, desperate for a fresh start, the couple moved into the ground floor flat at 10 Rillington Place. And 10 Rillington Place was in Notting Hill in London, which nowadays is a very nice place. It's a trendy place, Notting Hill. Like, everyone heads to Notting Hill in London. It's a lovely place.
It's where Hugh Grant and Julia Roberts hooked up. So
It is indeed. Yeah. Quaint little bookshops but then not at all. It was a really like dilapidated Scusties place in London.
A lot of London wasn't it? In
It
like
was,
the
yeah.
late 1800s, a lot of London was very, very plagued by horrendous poverty and
Yeah. I mean, this was 1937, 1938. You know, this was like in between like the two world wars, well, right on the button for World War II. At this time in Christie's life, he had quite an extensive criminal record now. In 1939, he stumbled onto a lovely brand new opportunity, which was World War II. And this meant that he was given the role of being a war reserve constable. This meant that he got to wear a police-like uniform, and he patrolled the streets, checking for people that, you know, they used to go around, they used to make sure that people's windows were blacked out. Because
oh, right, I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, they used to go around, and you, like, if they saw any crack of light coming out of your house, like, you'd be in trouble. Because
Why?
Because what the bombers used to do is they used to fly over, and if they saw a whole town like full of light, they would know that that's a town. So they would drop a bomb on it. So everyone in London had their windows blacked out. And I mean, a lot of people, like, you know, they'd take light bulbs out. They weren't allowed to have candles on. They had to paint their windows black or board them up or anything. It was a serious thing. So he was one of the constables that would go around checking that people had their blackouts done. He embraced this role because it gave him a sense of power that he just craved. He needed that. He got to be in a police-like role. He was fastidious about his role and his duties and his uniform. He fully embraced this. Christie got a little bit overzealous with his newfound power, and he ended up having an affair with a female co-worker. I don't think it could have been that deep into Scusties because he was completely impotent. Nevertheless, he did something Scusties with her, and this co-worker's husband found out, and he beat the granny out of Christie. Like, he beat him within an inch of his life. This beating clearly knocked Christie down more than like a few pegs, and this then instigated the start of his murderous rampage. In 1943, Christie's descent into darkness began. It was on that fateful day when he met Ruth First. I'm again sorry if I've mispronounced that. Fuerst. So it's like first, but first. And she was a 21-year-old Austrian native who had fled to England with all the turmoil that was going on in Europe. In London, she worked at a munitions factory, and she also engaged in part-time prostitution just to make ends meet. She was just trying to earn money where she could. She had no family and she had little to no friends. She moved from home to home and just tried to find somewhere that she could live in some kind of safety. I mean, it must have been terrifying for her. She was over like from Austria in London you know, right when like the war was going on. She had no one to like look out for her. And despite her troubled past, she didn't deserve the tragic fate that awaited her at the hands of John Christie. He led her into his home and he ended her life. He couldn't help but feel complete exhilaration coursing through him. He loved it. Christie employed what would become his typical method of murder. So this was when he learned kind of what worked and what didn't. And what he did was he would always do the murders in his home. So he would gas them, strangle them, normally molest their body, and then dispose of them. So after he strangled Ruth, he then thought, well, I'm not really sure what to do with her body, but there's a small garden out the back. I'll take her out there. So he took her body out into the back garden, presumably at night. And I mean, it was easy for him because everyone's windows were either blocked up or painted black and that. So no one was looking out of their windows. And he buried her body in the back garden in a shallow grave. And this marked the beginning of his grisly series of murders. Each murder just intensified his inner conflict, torn between his twisted desires, and also he did actually have guilt over like innocent lives, but just not enough. There was obviously his twisted desires was more than the guilt that he felt. And so it continued. A year passed since Christie's last victim, and on October 7th, 1944, he found his next one in the form of Muriel Eady. And Muriel was another co-worker of John's. And at this point, he was working at a radio factory where he was a clerk. During their time together, Christie had learned that Muriel was a bit of a sort of hypochondriac. You know, there would only be a vague suggestion of something that was going around, and Muriel was like, oh, I think I've got that. Actually, my throat does feel scratchy. And so he kind of played on that, and he started telling Muriel that he had this vast medical knowledge that he'd learned while he was in the army. You know, and he said, you know, I was a doctor, I was a medic. I used to have to think on my feet when I was in the army, and I would have to make these medicines, and you know, I cured loads of my army unit. And you know, Muriel was fairly convinced that she had bronchitis. She said, I'm coughing all the time, all day, all night. John was like, I can fix that. So she was well happy. She was like, oh, that's great. But instead of giving her any kind of relief, she would be another one of Christie's victims. John had made this contraption, and it had like a small wooden box on one end that he would put over their mouth and nose, like a really shit, like breathing apparatus, you know, like a face mask. And then there was a tube going from that, and the end of the tube would go into a small box. And in this box, John had mixed a concoction of chemicals, and it produced carbon monoxide. So he would say, you know, breathe in this medicine and it will cure your bronchitis, it will clear your airways. It might make you feel a bit dizzy, but it's good medicine. I've cured many, many people like this. So they would trust him, and they would breathe deeply. And not only did it make them dizzy, not only did it make them very drowsy, it pretty much just knocked them unconscious. And this gave Christie enough time to strangle them to death. As Muriel's body lay lifeless, the makeshift gas device used to render her unconscious sat nearby. Christie then proceeded to rape and strangle her before discreetly disposing of her body in the garden where his first victim rested. Sadly, with all the bombings that were going on at the time of Muriel's death, Muriel's family just assumed that she had been victim to a bombing, and the police were like, yeah, fits, that ties in. So they didn't really investigate it. So they were just like, yeah, she probably died when there was a bomb that went off. So that was pretty much it. And the police didn't do any further investigation. They were just like, yeah, she probably got bombed. So that's the end of that. So yet again, for a second time, Christie had got away with murder. In the year of 1948, a young couple by the names of Timothy and Beryl Evans, with their infant daughter Geraldine, moved into the top floor flat at 10 Rillington Place. I'll tell you a bit about this couple because they are pivotal to this story. Born on a chilly November morning in 1924, Timothy John Evans was welcomed into the world with his first cries filling the streets of Merthyr Tydfil in Wales. His early years were filled with chaos, starting with the untimely death of his father, followed by a series of foster homes that left him feeling isolated and adrift. With a lower than average intelligence, he struggled with basic reading and writing, making it difficult to navigate through life. Despite these obstacles, those who knew him described Timothy as endlessly kind-hearted and tirelessly hardworking, determined to make the best out of any situation that he encountered. Due to Timothy's low intelligence, he would often lie about his life, and unfortunately, he was kind of known for doing this. So the times that he did, it was a little bit like the boy that cried wolf. Mm-hmm. So he would lie quite often, not in a horrible way. I think he would just kind of lie about things that kind of made him look a little bit better and a little bit more desirable to people, and things like that. He was a good guy, Timothy, but he was known for being a good guy and kind, but also a bit of a liar. In the fall of 1947, Timothy Evans crossed paths with Beryl Susanna Thorley in bustling London. Their eyes met and sparks flew, igniting a passionate love that would change both of their lives forever. On September 20th of that same year, they exchanged vows in a small, intimate ceremony surrounded by loved ones. Eager to start their new lives together, the newlyweds left behind Beryl's family home and set off for a top floor flat at 10 Rillington Place in the vibrant neighbourhood of Notting Hill. The sunlit rooms and breezy windows offered them a taste of independence and a complete fresh start, which is what they both wanted.
Sunlit rooms? I was blacked out.
Well, not by this time, because the war was done. So cool. War was done. So they were like, get those windows open. The move to 10 Rillington Place was meant to mark a new beginning for the young couple, with high hopes and dreams of a better life. Timothy and Beryl embraced their new home. However, the harsh realities of their daily struggles quickly set in. Timothy spent most of his days working as a lorry driver, so he was often away from home for extended periods of time. Beryl stayed at home in their top floor flat, 10 Rillington Place, and looked after Geraldine, which was their baby. Born amidst the dreary October weather of 1948. Poor little Geraldine. The constant strain of financial difficulties and frequent arguments weighed heavily on the couple. Despite their efforts to make it work, their love seemed to be crumbling under the weight of their hardships. They were constantly arguing all the time, and it was pretty much always about money and how they were desperate to try and make things work and make things a little bit easier for them. But it was difficult, man. Peering out of the ground floor flat window at 10 Rillington Place, John Christie observed the new Evans family moving in. His meticulously groomed appearance and warm smile made him appear as a helpful, reliable, and nice neighbour, quickly gaining their trust of the young couple. But beneath this mild-mannered and respectable facade, his dark and sinister side lurked. For behind that friendly veneer lay a cunning and very, very manipulative man with a twisted mind and a heart full of malice. Little did the unsuspecting Evans family know they had just welcomed their worst nightmare into their lives. The autumn air was thick with the weight of despair as 1949 approached, bringing with it a new burden for Beryl. The realization that she was pregnant once again just added to the already crushing weight of their financial struggles. The couple argued extensively about this, and unfortunately, Christie heard them upstairs shouting and screaming about how this was the last thing they needed. How were they going to afford another baby? And they couldn't even cope financially with little Geraldine. You know, God forbid there should be another one. Christie had previously boasted to the couple already about his, air quotes, extensive medical knowledge. And one day, in desperation, Beryl turned to Christie, confiding in him about her pregnancy and their worries. Despite the illegal nature of abortions at the time, Christie claimed to have enough medical knowledge and offered help. Timothy was completely against this procedure. He didn't want any part of it. He was like, absolutely not. You're not doing that to Beryl. Christie leaned on this and told Timothy that there was really no other choice. How on earth would they afford to live there? How could they afford to pay to feed two babies? Beryl also just really didn't want this baby. She knew how difficult their lives would be by bringing another one into the mix. And she really worked hard on Timothy. And eventually she said and did enough. And Timothy relented and said, okay, fine. Christie had told Timothy that he had carried out this procedure on several other women and it had been successful and they'd been fine. And it was pretty much an easy fix. So Timothy was still against it, but eventually he was like, okay, yeah, do it. So Christie was like, you go off to work, earn your money, do your shift. I'll take care of everything here. November 8th, 1949 would forever be etched into history as the day Beryl placed her trust in Christie. Christie's supposed attempt at an abortion ended in death for Beryl. A cold, calculated murder disguised as a botched procedure. Christie had slowly twisted the very vulnerable mind of Timothy Evans, who had returned home to find his beloved wife dead in their bed upstairs. Using cunning words and false promises, Christie convinced Evans that they needed to cover up the incident in order to avoid harsh legal repercussions. In a state of deep distress and much confusion, Evans didn't really know what else to do. He gave in to Christie's persuasive tactics. Christie then made a solemn vow to ensure that either himself and his loving wife would take care of his precious daughter Geraldine, or he would find someone responsible and reliable that would look after her. But instead, as soon as Timothy was out of there, sadly, Christie would then snuff out the innocent life of Geraldine. He strangled Geraldine with a tie, and he had no intention of looking after her. She was just another victim to him. The darkness and depravity of Christie's actions were matched only by the anguish and horror felt by Evans as he realised that he'd just been manipulated into becoming an accomplice to murder. Christie's plan was that he said abortions are illegal, so technically I've broken the law because you got yourself in this position and I just tried to fix it. So, you know, I could be sent to prison for something that you and Beryl did, you know, and Timothy was like, oh my God, you're right. And Christie also said, you are going to be an accomplice to murder because it was your decision. And also, everybody knows that you and Beryl have been arguing and fighting and rowing. They're going to think that you did it. No matter what I say, they're going to think you did it. So Timothy became terrified. Overcome with overwhelming guilt and fear, Evans fled to the quaint countryside of his hometown in Wales. The rolling hills and familiar sights provided little solace as he grappled with the weight of what he thought he had done. Timothy had immense guilt about agreeing to the procedure in the first place, and Christie had convinced him that Beryl had been ill anyway and she'd not been able to fight through it. And this was a very normal procedure. There's no reason why, you know, she wouldn't have made it, but she didn't. But ultimately, Timothy, you got her into this position and that's why she died. It's not my fault. Seeking some kind of refuge and I suppose safety, Timothy confided in his family what had happened, but he wasn't completely honest. He kind of flim-flammed around a little bit, didn't really say things as it was. And I think if he had, the outcome for Timothy would have been very different. Confiding to his family didn't do it for him, so he went to the local police in Wales. Like I said, it was still the same thing. His story was really fragmented and really disjointed. You see, Timothy didn't want to expose Christie. He felt bad for John Christie because he just thought, oh, he was just trying to help, you know, and Beryl wasn't, she was ill and she wasn't strong and all that. So he dodged around this story and he changed his whole story like a couple of different times. And the police were like, do you know what? We need to check this out. Timothy he told the police that he had killed Beryl and it was an accident and he didn't mean to, but he panicked. And John had told Timothy that he had disposed of Beryl's body. And he told Timothy, I opened the manhole cover outside 10 Rillington Place and I put a body down into the drain and then I shut the manhole cover. So Timothy had this information in his head. So this is what he told police, because police were like, what did you do with Beryl when you accidentally killed her? He said, oh, I went out and I lifted up manhole cover and I put Beryl's body down there because I didn't know what to do. So the police said, right, we're all going to go back to London and we're going to let the police in London take this case and investigate. So Timothy and that, they all went back to London, and the police went straight to 10 Rillington Place, and they went over to the manhole cover, and it took a few of these police officers to like get the manhole cover up. And that then made them think, would Timothy have been able to do this? I don't think he would, because this was really hard to get the manhole cover up with like 3 or 4 of us. How could he have done this? Not sure. So obviously they got the manhole cover off. They looked down it. They searched drains, and they were like, "There's no body." So they went back to Timothy, and they were like, WTF? Like, there's no body down there. What are you talking about? And he was like, "Oh, well, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I didn't put it down there, and I don't know." But the police were like, "Do you know what? We're pretty sure that he did it. Why would he say he killed her if he didn't? Can't really get to the bottom of it." But they were focused on that it was Timothy that had killed her. So they launched this investigation. They knew that he lived at 10 Rillington Place. So they said, right, we're going to search the property of 10 Rillington Place. So in they went. And unfortunately, they discovered the bodies of Beryl and Geraldine hidden away in the wash house, which was like just outside, sort of in the garden to the side. They were wrapped in a tablecloth and a blanket, and baby Geraldine still had the tie that had been used to take her life. She still had that round her little neck. In a further twist of this tragedy, the 2 bodies of the women that were buried in shallow graves in the back garden were not discovered whilst the police were searching Rillington Place. And to add insult to injury, honestly, this will blow your mind, because when I read this, I was like, are you actually kidding? One of the women's femur bones was in plain view, and it had been overlooked. And it was in plain view, so much so that it was actually leaning against part of the fence, propping the fence up.
Oh my goodness.
A full-on femur bone in the garden. The police were all out there because that's where the wash house was. And no one looked round and went, do you know what that fence post looks like? Looks like a femur bone. No one did. So the 2 bodies of the women that were in the garden just went overlooked, undiscovered. The evidence seemed damning, and all fingers pointed towards Timothy as the culprit, charged with double murder. And by this point, Timothy didn't even know that his baby daughter Geraldine was dead. He thought that she was being well cared for and looked after by someone that Christie knew. So this was news to him, and he was devastated when he found out. So he was charged with double murder, and he faced his trial in January 1950. Once at the trial, at the Old Bailey started, Timothy had realised that it wasn't looking good for him. And Christie was not only not helping him, but he was kind of making him look a little bit more guilty. And Timothy thought, what's going on? So he kind of explained, and he said, look, I'll tell you the truth. Christie told me that he had carried out many successful abortions, and that he could easily do it for us, and that would solve our problems. Christie was obviously then asked to take the stand. And it was explained to the court that Christie had been in the British Army and he'd served in World War One. He'd been a special constable on the streets of London during World War Two. And he was an upstanding member of the community. He looked quiet in his demeanour and he was dressed smartly in a nice suit and tie. And as he stood there on the stand, he told the court about hearing Timothy screaming and shouting at his wife Beryl. He told them that after the last time that he ever saw Beryl, he'd heard an argument upstairs and then he heard like dragging noises on the floor or on the ceiling upstairs. And he heard like a weird sort of bumping noise, like maybe Timothy was
bumping
like
down the stairs,
just bringing something heavy and it was bumping down the stairs. And yeah, I mean, I don't know what it was, you know, I can't imagine, you know. Despite Timothy's obvious distress and inconsistencies with his statement, the jury found him guilty of killing his wife and his own daughter, Geraldine. Evans' defence team struggled to counter the prosecution's narrative or expose Christie's true nature. And in a heartbreaking turn of events, their efforts were not enough to save Evans from facing the ultimate punishment, death by hanging at Pentonville Prison on March 9th, 1950. When the guilty verdict was read out and Timothy was sentenced to death, Christie, who was sitting in the courtroom, burst into tears, like properly sobbed. And I'm just putting a question out there to you, Sarah, and to our listeners. Do you think this was some kind of guilt or remorse? Or do you think it was relief because he'd gotten away with murder again?
I think it's neither. I think
really?
I think it's just another part of the manipulation that it seems to be so good at.
Yeah.
Now, if he's seen being the devastator, oh gosh, I'm so sad. I can't believe my neighbour upstairs killed the woman. And, you know, I probably could have done something to stop it. And everyone's watching him cry and be like, oh gosh, what a poor soul. What a,
yeah,
you know.
that's a good point, actually, because by this point, like in the trial, they had been told from Timothy that Christie had performed or tried or attempted to do this abortion. You know, he'd served in the army. What a good guy.
Yeah.
He tried to help. But so I guess either way, whether you thought Timothy had done it or whether you believed that Christie tried to help and then ended up dying, you know, whichever way, Christie still kind of looks like the good guy, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Okay. The Evans tragedy had not slowed down Christie's insatiable hunger for violence. In December 1952, he crept into his own bedroom. The floorboards creaked beneath his weight, and he strangled his unsuspecting wife, Ethel.
I've been waiting for this one. I knew it was coming.
She was just asleep in bed, and he crept in and strangled her to death. He then sort of thought, don't really know what to do now. I'll just leave her there. So he left her body in bed for over 2 days. Then when he noticed that it was kicking up a bit, he thought, I can't really be bothered to take her all the way downstairs. So he just pulled up, oh, not downstairs, sorry, out into the garden. So he just pulled up the floorboards in the bedroom, ripped up all the floorboards, wrapped her body in the blanket that was on the bed, and just placed her like in the floor, and then just put the floorboards back on top, nailed them down. He was like, yeah, good job done. Didn't even have to take her out into the garden.
He's getting on a bit now. He's in his 50s, isn't he? So digging a shallow grave, not quite as simple anymore.
He was just like, there's a gap down there. The floorboards are squeaky and creaky, so I'll just pad it out a bit with my wife.
Work smarter, not harder.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, why he wouldn't have thought, like, she was in the bed and he thought, oh, it's kicking up a bit. Oh, no, I'll just put her under these very flimsy floorboards. That'll sort
keep
it.
the smell out.
Yeah. But it didn't. By this time, Christie was not satisfied with just one victim, his wife. Over the next couple of months, he lured another 3 women to his home. These women was Rita Nelson, Kathleen Maloney, and Hectorina McLennan. With cold, calculated precision, Christie used his now very familiar method to render each woman unconscious with this deadly gas before carrying out his twisted desires of rape. Their bodies were then callously hidden in a kitchen alcove, which Christie carefully wallpapered over to conceal his monstrous actions from the world. He just thought, oh yeah, bit of wallpaper, sorted. I mean,
it's even face pressed up against.
Yeah, see, it's even worse than like flimsy floorboards. It's like now it's just like, oh yeah, I'll just stick some wallpaper over that. That's fine. Unfortunately for Christie, he really struggled with the smell in the flat. There was bodies behind the walls, rotted and decayed, and he was now completely alone, apart from these rotting, decaying corpses, and he was properly like losing the plot by this point. Christie wasn't working. He was skint. He'd sold Ethel's wedding ring, which was pretty much the only thing they had of any kind of value. And he'd exhausted all avenues of trying to get some money in. He had no other option but to give up his home. So he sublet 10 Rillington Place. As the month of March...
What did you think was going to happen?
He was just losing the plot. He had to have been completely out of it to just think, I mean, I can't live with this stench anymore. I'll get someone else in.
And they went, cool, what's that smell? And he went, what smell? What about?
You went, what do you mean? It smells fine. The air is sweet and fragrant. Yeah, so the month of March arrived in 1953. Christie got the hell out of there. He made a hasty exit from 10 Rillington Place, his previous residence now occupied by fresh new tenants. The stench of death and decay filled the air as the new residents of Rillington Place decided to deal with the rancid aroma. They hunted down and pinpointed the area, well, one of the areas of the stench, and thought, let's have a look and see what it is that stinks. Obviously, they uncovered the hidden bodies, triggering a quick call to the police and setting into motion a thorough investigation. The police went in, tore the place apart, and found all the bodies. On March 31st, so like within a couple of weeks, in Putney, in London, recognised by a very observant police officer, Christie was arrested and taken into custody for questioning. Amidst the tense and sombre atmosphere, Christie's trial commenced on the 22nd of June, 1953. And this was at the historic Old Bailey, same place that Timothy's trial had taken place. The courtroom was packed with reporters and spectators, their whispers and murmurs creating an anxious hum. As the accused stood before the judge, he confessed to the brutal murders, not only of his wife, but also 3 other women that were found in the alcove. With each detail revealed, gasps and sobs could be heard from all round the courtroom. Everyone was in shock and disbelief. They'd all just been through this war. London had been savaged, and they just couldn't believe that this quiet, unassuming man would do these horrendous things, despite his defence team's best efforts to plead insanity. Because, I mean, he came across as bonkers in his court case. He was just like, they were like, why did you put him in the wall? And he was like, well, I know I did, but I don't remember. And they were like, but you killed your wife. You left her on the bed for like over 2 days, and then you just put her under the floorboards. Like, what were you thinking? And he was like, I don't know. And they were like, do you deny it? And he was like, well, no, but I don't really know why I did that. And they were like, when you knew that the police were going to be looking for you, why weren't you hiding? You were just wandering around. And he was like, don't know how I got there. So he was, I mean, I do think he was like bonkers by then, but anyway, they tried to convince, like his defense team tried to convince everyone that he'd just gone insane. The jury remained convinced of Christie's sanity, and they declared him guilty. On July 15th, 1953, the notorious killer met his fate at Pentonville Prison. As he walked towards the gallows, his eyes filled with fear and apparently regret, he faced his executioner, which was a gentleman called Albert Pierpoint, or Pierpoint, a man who was known for swift and efficient methods of hanging. With one final breath, Christie paid for his heinous crimes against these innocent women. The weight of justice was finally served. But for those affected by his actions, closure would never come. The tragic and unjust execution of Timothy Evans ignited a firestorm of public outrage that reverberated throughout the UK. This injustice, massive injustice, along with other high-profile cases, such as John Christie's, was a pivotal factor in the eventual abolition of the death penalty in 1965. The Christie case exposed glaring deficiencies in the British criminal justice system, bringing to light serious concerns about police procedures, the handling of crucial evidence, the fact there was a leg propping up a fence while they stood there and had a fag. The country was left reeling and demanded change in the wake of these shocking revelations. And the horrors that took place within the walls of 10 Rillington Place have been etched into the pages of books, immortalised in documentaries, and brought to life on the silver screen. If you guys want to get a good insight into this story and you want to see it rather than hear it with my Essex tone, there is look up 10 Rillington Place. It's very good. I enjoyed watching it, but it's very close to how everything was. The house looks exactly like it actually, like it did. John Christie's life and crimes are forever carved into the histories of British criminal history. His twisted ability to masquerade as a normal man, which we've said about many murderers. He was a normal guy whilst committing heinous acts. But 10 Rillington Place has been demolished. It's no longer there. Even the road has been renamed. I'll tell you what it is. It's Ruston Close. Anyone listening in Ruston Close that didn't realise that that's where you lived? That's what happened there. But I want to leave you all with one final question. Timothy's execution, like if they'd have waited they would have found that Christie had done all this to all these other women, and it would have become obvious. And I would like to think that Timothy would have been released. However, he was declared guilty, sentenced to death, and then he was literally like hung.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel, Sarah, and how do you guys feel, our listeners, about the death penalty? I know it's not an easy black and white question to answer.
Well, the death penalty at the moment is very different to what it was back then, because as the whole legal system is, like the fact that there are so many appeals and things like that. So I think that the death
and you can be on death row for like years and years.
You can be on death row for like decades. You can be on death row for. And there are some people that have been on death row that have been found that actually didn't belong there. I feel like the people that are sentenced to death, or the people that should be sentenced to death, it's not good enough. Take for instance, Chris
Watts.
For instance, Chris Watts. Okay, he's not sentenced to death, but for his crimes, I feel like that punishment is the most severe punishment there is, and that's what he probably should have got. However, I feel like that's too good of a punishment, and I feel like he's got off very easily by just being in prison.
Yeah.
So I feel like the death penalty, I just feel like there should be something else instead of the death penalty.
No, I agree, because I don't know as though, I think if it was absolutely definite that they did that crime, or they admitted to it or something like that, I think, yeah, kind of get that. Do you know what I mean? Get them out of here. Why should everyone pay for them to be in prison? And but I also feel that prison isn't like, well, I mean, I don't know, because I've never been in prison, touch wood, but I feel like it's not harsh enough.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
I feel like there's a lot of prisoners, like when you see these like prison programs and things like that, and like documentaries inside the prison, I feel like they've got like tellies, and some of them have got games consoles, and they make a life for themselves, like there. And I think, why aren't you suffering?
No, they've got the cheek and the gall to go, oh, the conditions in here are inhumane. Well, don't fucking go there then. Don't commit a crime knowing that you're going to go to prison and then moan about the conditions of prison.
But then I've also got, as we know from previous episodes and my outbursts, I have an inner rage and a need for some kind of vengeance. If someone does something so awful, I feel the need to like make them suffer.
I know. Well, my Chris Watts one, when I was like, fucking get a leg off, get the leg off, get hopping about on one leg, you know.
Yeah.
Like, I just feel like the suffering
if someone hurt my dog, man, I'd go at them. I would honestly, the vengeance that would be unleashed.
I mentioned it the other day in the episode that I done on the Red Barn. Not the Red Barn, that was you. The farm. Murder on the Farm. Where if you know, in Texas, they've got the right to shoot dead somebody that they can see is robbing a neighbor's house. So that in itself is a punishment of death for the crime of robbery. And that's a sentence of death, and that's legal, and you're allowed to do that. So that I just think that there are worse crimes that are should be punishable by death.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it's like, if you were going to break into someone's house, like in the UK, and you think, do you know what? Even if I get caught, it's like risk versus reward. If I don't get caught, I could make it out of that house with, you know, a really expensive telly or loads of really expensive jewelry or something like that. And then, you know, certainly for short term, my financial troubles will be over. If I get caught, like realistically, like what's the worst that's going to happen? Like in this country,
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like you if you haven't got any previous, you're probably just going to get away with some sort of warning or, you know, a slap on the wrist and be like, do you know what? If you get caught doing this again, then you're going to be in trouble. And you'd be like, all right, it was worth it.
Well,
But
that's why I feel like there are so many repeat offenders, because they're like,
exactly.
oh, I get a hot meal, a roof over my head. I don't get as much freedom as whatever, but actually, I don't need
I
all of
don't
that
want it.
freedom. I need
Yeah.
routine. I need this. I need that.
Yeah.
And that's the best place. So that's why
Yeah. It's
there are so
almost
many
by
repeat offenders.
choice.
Yeah.
But if it was different and they said, do you know what? If you get caught breaking into someone's house, we're going to cut your hands off. And everyone would go, oh, can't do that. That's how, but if they were like, do you know what? That's what we're going to do. If you get caught breaking into someone's house or stealing something, taking something from someone else that doesn't belong to you, we are going to cut both your hands off.
Yeah. Yeah, you'd have a lot less burglaries.
Well, I think you would. And it's like, if you knew that you were going to break into someone's house in Texas and there was a good chance that they're going to be armed, you know, and you break into my house, I'm going to blow your head off. Do you know what? I'd be less likely to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you know? So I don't know.
In Edinburgh, when I did the Edinburgh tour, they mentioned about the different types of punishment there were for petty crimes like theft and things like that.
Yeah.
And they would actually brand people.
Yes.
So that they had a physical marking on them to show that that person is a thief or that person is a, you know, whatever. They had a brand on them. And the term tearaway comes from if a person had been caught thieving, they would be nailed to the door by their ear and they'd be left there. So the public could, you know, do what they wanted, throw stuff at them. They'd be publicly humiliated. They'd stay on this door for however long. And then to get them down, they would pull them. So it would tear their ear. And that's where the term tearaway comes from.
That's disgusting.
Yeah. So that you'd see in the future, that person has got a big hole in their ear. You'd be like, well, they were a thief. I'm not going to trust them with my belongings.
A right tearaway.
Yeah. So,
well, I think they should. I think if you're proven to be like a rapist, like if you stalked someone, went after them, attacked them, raped them, I think you should be branded.
Yeah, absolutely. I
think you should. That's just my opinion, right or wrong. Sorry, that is how I feel. I think if you're going to do something awful like that, or you know, I mean, John Christie, he admitted it.
I feel like a rapist, the correct punishment for a rapist is chemical castration, because
physical castration.
Yeah, either way, that's not an accident. You know what I mean? To rape somebody, so that was a conscious choice, and you know, to stop them from doing that again. I feel like that's what the punishment needs to be, and then they can be released back into society.
If you're not going to use it responsibly, then you're not going to use it at all.
Take it away. Exactly. You take somebody's toys. If my child is hitting someone with their toy, you're not having that toy. Not doing it.
Yeah.
Take it away.
Yeah. If you're going to be irresponsible with it and you're not going to use it for its like intended purpose, which is to make love and to have babies, not going to have it.
We've gotten off topic. Yeah. We've gotten a bit off topic anyway. So.
Yeah. Well, yeah. On that note, let me know, guys. Let me know how you feel about the death penalty, because I am open to different opinions and discussions, and I am genuinely perplexed by it, and I want to know. I want to hear from you. Yeah. All right.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Cheers. Cheers, love.
Cheers. Babs.
See you next time. Babs.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye.
If you have enjoyed listening to our episodes, make sure you rate us and leave us a review on whatever platform you are listening.
We absolutely love hearing from you guys. So you can also help support our show by donating to our Buy Me a Coffee link. We will make sure that you get a massive shout out and a big thank you in our next week's episode.
You can also follow us on social media at Perplexed Podcasts. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and if you want to see more videos and blooper reels, subscribe to our TikTok and YouTube channels.
You can also email us your stories at perplexedpodcasts@gmail.com.
And you can find all the relevant links in the episode descriptions. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye. Sadly, with all the bonging.
Bong.
He was really into bongo drums, so
Love bonging.
yeah, he was always bonging. You've been desperate for that, haven't you?
You have no idea. No idea how much I wanted that.
Sitting there staring at you.
Oh, stop looking at me.
Look at me sitting here on the plate, getting all dried out and crispy.
Knowing friends where Joe is left with
Yeah,
his
the
dessert.
Yeah, she comes
Stop
back.
looking at me. I'm not even sorry.
Not even sorry. Oh, I love that.